today, the First Lady, and she's expressed a desire to sing our song. So, here's how we do it. I hope Gary hasn't forgotten the tune. I hope you haven't forgotten the words. I hope I haven't forgotten the words. And I hope you haven't forgotten the words. One, two, three. Take me out to the ball. Me out to the buy me some.
Originating from WBRN Radio via the Boston Red Network, this is special programming. The 2008 All-Star Game. It was played on Tuesday, would have been the 18th of July. This broadcast is on the 19th of July, 2018. Historic All-Star Game, as All-Star Games always are. We'll go to the Washington Post here. They had waited, this is by David Schilling. Anyway, waited 49 years for the All-Stars to return after dark decades of no baseball and heavy years of bad kind, after a long era of new fan base coming of age and all the relentless lobbying, planning, fan fests, galas. After the Futures game, the Celebrity game, the Home Run Derby, of course, sung the national anthem. Max Scherzer, the ball was in Max Scherzer's hand. This was the 89th All-Star Game. Of course, it was played at National Park in the heart of D.C., which is a very interesting situation to begin with. And it was also extra endings, went to the 10th ending there, and so on a recap, we'll do the line scores later after 9th inning barrage of home runs pushed the game to extra innings. The Houston Astro teammates, who happened to play for the American League, Mr. Springer and Mr. Bregman, hit back-to-back blasts off of the Dodger pitcher Ross Stripling. It was in the top of the ninth, sending the American League to an 8-6 victory. One of the things to note about this particular game, the way the pitchers are allocated, of course, they had the manager of the Dodgers was the National League manager, Dave Roberts, but the pitchers basically didn't have very much there. They had to go with Stripling. If not Stripling, they had, their closer in the Mr. Jansen in the bullpen, and then I think one more, and then it would have went to utility players. This is where an all-star game is a different kind of game, in that pitchers usually pitch a few innings, and it was a well-pitched game. You'll find that out when we do the line scores. It became a tied game in the ninth inning, a very interesting situation. There were 10 homers there, obliterating a 47-year-old record for a single all-star game in 1971, when there was 6 homers launched. The hitters in question at that time, and this is an all-star lineup forever. Johnny Bench, he was with Cincinnati. Mr. Hank Aaron, Reggie Jackson out of Oakland, and he later ended up with the Yankees. Frank Robinson, who later became a manager, and Harmon Killebrew. and Roberto Clemente of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who was killed on a humanitarian mission to Nicaragua. Very interesting. Herman Killebrew, of course, is no longer with us. Reggie is still around. Frank Robinson is still around. Johnny Bench is still around, as far as I know. Hank was doing an interview on ESPN. He's now 80 or whatever there, and he was talking, of course, baseball. Very interesting situation. 47 years, long time there. 1971. And this time around, the 10 hitters, Aaron Judd, he's with the Yankees. Mr. Trout is with the Angels. Willson Contreras and Trevor Story with the Rockies. Kristen Yelich and Gene Segura with the Mariners, I believe. Scooter Gennett, and of course you had Bregman, Singer, and Joey Votto. And Michael Bradley's sacrifice fly ticked off an insurance run for the AL in the 10th. Every run scored in the game had come as a result of a home run. Homers and strikeouts, the all-star game there, said Mr. Scherzer, the Nationals ace, who started. You're not going to start to string hits together. The pitchers have too many pitches, and we throw too hard, no doubt about that. They usually only throw a few innings. Gennett's homer in the bottom of the 9th had sent it into extra innings. Votto, the 10th inning and last the night, came in the bottom of the 10th. He's with the National League, and Bregman and company, of course, had, as they say, put the icing on the cake. A.J. Hinch, he was the American League manager. He's also manager of the Houston Astros. He just basically said he never ceases to amaze me with the control he is in a big moments. In any part of the game, any pitcher, any precious situation, he obviously loves the moment. He's talking about Mr. Bregman there. He hopes he helped the Astros to win the series title in 2017. I feel like I've been in this situation a lot in the last 2 years. I haven't failed them probably just as much as I succeeded. At the time you fall in those moments, you get your better for the next. That's what Bregman said there. He got the MVP trophy, which is named after the Red Sox pitcher Ted Williams. Completed a circle of life in D.C. Bregman's grandfather, Stanley, was the general counsel for the Washington Senators in the 60s. That was old Griffith's team in the early 90s, bringing Williams to the team as its manager, Ted Williams. And Tuesday night, Bregman and his father said his father grew up on Ted Williams' lap. It's been 49 years since the district last hosted a Major League All-Star game, 13 years since the Montreal Expos. A venerable team relocated and brought baseball back to the city. 12 years since the Lerner family purchased the team from Major League Baseball. 10 years since the opening of National Park. Dr. Bernanke, the former head of the Fed, no doubt is very happy. And 3 years since the Nationals were awarded the All-Star Game. A major situation there, a solid year of planning, beginning with a trip to Florida 12 months ago to witness the 2016 All-Star Game. And the extravaganza they had 43,000. That's about the same amount of people you normally have at an LA Dodgers game, some of whom had been in attendance at RFK Stadium in 1969. Kind of interesting. Facing the American League lineup loaded with mashers, as he said. He caught Mookie Betts looking at an 89 mile an hour slider, then blew the fastball past Jose Altuve, striking around the infield like a predator, stalking, like a predator animals after each other. He was one strike away 5 different times from setting down Mike Trout. And this was Scherzer, remarked of striking out a generation veteran of Mays. Remember Willie Mays and Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, and Mickey Mantle. But Trout fought off a couple of tough pitches, drew a walk at the end of the 8th pitch at bat, perhaps losing that battle. Deflected Scherzer, because Mr. J.D. Martinez, a single sharp to center, got Jose Ramez, I always mispronounce that name, to pop up to end the inning. But an inning later, Mr. Aaron Judd socked it there. He's reigning Rookie of the Year, crushed a 95 mile an hour fastball to the left on Scherzer's second pitch for a homer. Busting loose, Chuck Brown's DC Go-Go anthem blasted from the loud speakers, and the Boston lefty Chris Sale. That was the counterpart there for the second straight season. It was more electrifying, touching at 105, if you can believe that, miles per hour. The game played out in free true outcome clinics, with nearly half of the plate appearances ending in either strikeouts, walks, or home runs. Every time the ballpark gate swung open, a new pitcher entered and would evidently come in firing fastballs, no doubt about that, in the upper 90s. Not unusual now. It's one of the reasons you have so much arm trouble these days. The ball wasn't in play enough to produce any transcendental defensive moments, but every time you looked up, another towering home run ball was bending towards the Capitol Dome in the distance beyond left field. So this is interesting. By the time Tuesday dawned, the All-Star Weekend had already gifted Washington with such a transcendental, he loves to use this word, baseball moment with the national rights fielder Bruce Harper, who won the home run derby. It was almost forgot it was on Monday night. The crowd tried with Harper's encore. Tuesday night, he struck out in his plate appearances against Louis Savino and Blake Snell. I don't know who Blake Snell is, doesn't matter. And on Tuesday, torrential rains moved through the area. Sure, that was after about 3:30. It was over by game time. And the Dodger outfielder, Mr. Matt Kemp, doubled in the second inning. Machado at short, sauteed over and pulled a smartphone out of his pocket and snapped a selfie. So selfies are there also. Incidentally, this was dubbed as the Matty Machado All-Star Game. Mr. Machado is now a Dodger. And on one of our outlets, we actually titled this that. The second half of the Nationals begin on Friday night. And these games will be on Friday night. Later tonight, the Cubs will play. And they have some catching up to do. Period. So let's look at the line scores here. I hope we still have the line score. Uh-oh. Well, if we look across here, the first inning knotted goose eggs. The second inning, the AL one run, I should say. The third inning, the AL had 1 run, and the Nationals had 1 run. So it was basically a 2-1 score. In the fourth, nothing in the fifth, nothing in the sixth, and in the seventh, the Nationals got another run. And in the ninth, so we had 5-3, then 9-5 hits, and the Nationals made a 1 error. So we look back here. Who the pitchers were, who the outs were, the number of pitchers were in here. Snell, Jimenez, Binos, Morton, Diaz. Some of the pitchers that are out there, and the full scorecard, I haven't got that up here yet. The ending, of course, was an 8-6 game, but it was tied 6-6, and those 2 runs in the top of the 10th sealed the deal, basically speaking. I think at that time it was 5-8, and the Nationals scored 1 run in the bottom, making it a 2-run game. Let me see, I can... Yeah, in the 9 innings, the American League he had 5-3, and they had 9 hits, and the National League had 5 hits and 1 error to the National League. So some of what was going on here, and we get the full score box here. And now we got everything going on
From
here.
Washington, this is the 2018 MLB All-Star Game.
Tonight, the focus is here, oozing with talent. We talked about it in the pregame, the American League side, because they are stacked.
National League takes the field in the home white, led by Max Scherzer. Mookie Betts climbs in, and we're ready to go. Scherzer, 2-2 on the way. In there, got him looking, and Betts spins around and marches off to the dugout. He knew it. Field 2. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts. Max Scherzer back to work here in the top of the second. He'll face Aaron Judge. Swing and a high fly ball. Well struck. Left field. That one back there on its way, and that one is gone. Aaron Judge, a home run. All rise in D.C. American League on top. It is 1-0. DeGrom turns, kicks, delivers. Swing and a ball ripped left field. That one back there. It's got a chance, and that is gone. Home run, Mike Trout.
Mike Trout, just stop it, all right? You're just too good.
Swing and a ball ripped down the left field line. Well struck, and it's gone. And Story with 1 swing. He has tied things up. Let's go. 2 on, 1 out. Hader at the belt. Here's the 3-2. Swing and a ball hammered. Left field. Way back there. On its way. Out of here. Gene Segura. It's a 3-run homer, and the American League has jumped on top. It is 5-2. He got all of it. And fittingly enough, a guy named Scooter at the plate. Swings and hammers one. Right field. And we are tied. Scooter Gennett puts a charge into 1. The 2-2. Swing and a drive. Well struck. Left field. Way back there. And gone! Alex Bregman gets the barrel of the bat to the ball. And it is 6-5. Pitch to Springer. He drives one right field. Kane going back. Kane looking. And that's gone. Back-to-back Astros homers. American League has added another, and it is 7-5.
All right, this is becoming as exciting as the home run derby last night.
And that's the ball game. And the American League wins it. 8-6 the final.
And that was the end of the things are there. Let's go to the theme here, and this is from the LA Times. Dodgers excited about Manny Machado trade, which it did happen on Wednesday. Manny Machado, he'll be the second baseman with the Dodgers. Pulled out his iPhone. We talked about that. Took a selfie of Matt Kemp. He'll be the shortstop. That's why we termed this the Manny Machado All-Star Game. So the Orioles are in a rebuilding mode. If it happens, my head will hit the roof. That's from Kenley Jansen, who evidently didn't have a chance to bless the Dodgers closer. The manager Dave Roberts laughed when asked about his shortstop would be when the season resumes. They'll be in Milwaukee playing the Brewers. Manny Machado, of course, the shortstop, and perhaps he'll later go to third base. He is one of baseball's most dangerous hitters, no doubt about that, entering the break with 24 home runs and a .963 on-base slugging percentage. One of the things we look at, and what the Dodgers have been able to do. Here they have Rick Hill, Josh Reddish from Oakland. So the Dodgers have made some moves. They're trying to get there. Now, they lost Corey Seager. He was their shortstop, season-ending surgery in May. Chris Taylor has been a useful replacement. The versatile Taylor makes the trade more functional. Taylor could replace Max Muncy at second base, and Corey Bellinger could enter the outfield rotation with Max Muncy. So in other words, they have an all lineup here. The deadline, incidentally, is July 31st, which could end, unfortunately, one of my favorites, Yasiel Puig. I always have it. Anyway, Yasiel. The Dodgers invested $15.6 million as bonuses to sign Diaz. 21 out of Cuba. That was in 2015. So some of what is going on here in Los Angeles, and let me just take a quick look here. The story should be updated for Thursday morning. This is a sports page. Big picture. Acquire Manny Machado from the Dodgers for 5 prospects from the Orioles. Sorry about that. So that is it. We talked about the iPhone stunt there. 2 weeks ago, the Lakers landed LeBron James. Dodgers counted by acquiring their own superstar, Manny Machado. That's why we turned. He's 26 years old. So shortstop for 5 prospects. Outfielder Diaz, I will try to pronounce this, heads back to the Orioles before James could return to the Dodger Stadium. Turner's wife posted the clip. Oh, well, okay, anyway. Machado to Dodgers. Oh, oops, going back here. We reviewed Manny Machado as a big as a big difference maker. No doubt about that. That is from the Dodgers management. Added a thunderous bat to our offense. The Dodgers have always needed more offense. They have pretty good pitching team, and it'd be interesting. It's very difficult here. Made progress in the sweepstakes, including the Brewers, the Phillies, Yankees, and D-backs. To finish the trade, the Dodgers part with a half-dozen prospects while holding the highly regarded youngster Walker Buehler. They'll hold it on to him. Outfielder Alex Verdugo, and the catcher Ruiz. Diaz is only 21 years old. American Baseball rated Diaz, the organization's third best prospect. He will depart for the Orioles organization along with a starter, Dean Kramer. He's a double-A people outfielder, Ryan Banner, and another reliever named Zach Pop. A utility person there, Verzak Valera. So Baltimore did not send any cash in the deal. The Dodgers will pay Mr. Machado $6.3 million, tightening their wiggling room to avoid the luxury tax penalty. The team's payroll is $181.5 million. That number doesn't include bonuses for Keita, Maeda, which averages 5.875 million. That's there. Machado's salary and Maeda. Bonuses, the Dodgers will have less than $4 million available to improve their ballpark. That's an interesting situation there. So Yasiel Puig, and we forgot about Ryu. He's been injured. He's a very good pitcher. In their 4 years at the helm, Friedman and Zudi have been aggressive in the July trading season. They got Rich Hill from Oakland and Josh Reddick a few minutes before the Sunline last, and they finalized a trade with Texas. Mr. Darvish, who's no longer there. Darvish is, I think, with the Cubs. So he will headline a class that includes Clayton Kershaw, along with the Nationals outfielder Bryce Harper. The Dodgers get a 4-month window to sell Machado on LA before he hits the market. Machado will get a chance. Anyway, will Machado be there the next time around? That's a difficult situation to be, but some of the commentators were talking about the talk surrounding Matty Machado overshadowed some of the I don't want to call it ambience, but some of the charisma of the All-Star game. Because when you have a side story like that, and the All-Star game is just focusing on All-Stars, and it's usually a game where players don't go all out. They don't want players injured in the All-Star game. But this was a baseball derby in the All-Star game that had been the day before. Nothing but home runs. So in other words, they were not playing small ball, which I like, but they were playing knock it out of the park type of ball, and that's basically what you got. So this is 6 years in a row that the American League has won the All-Star game. There was as one fellow would say, a goofy rule that the winner of the All-Star game would open up the series. That is no longer the situation now between the American League and National League, and many things have happened. For one, the National League still has does not have the designated hitter rule, which is fortunate. That is an outstanding thing. But baseball now has the automatic walk, in which you don't have to throw the pitches. That's taken a lot out of baseball. And then they have a very annoying video review system, and also the number of times you can go to the plate. All of this is supposedly to speed up baseball. It's been roughly 2.5 hours, but you have 3-hour games, and they happen anyway. And part of the reason there is pitching. The pitchers aren't what they used to be. So either you'll have very good pitchers that shut down hitters, and that was the old proverbial argument. Does good pitching shut down good hitting, or does hitting affect pitching? Well, in this particular situation, you had good pitching, but you also had good hitting, and that's how the American League got on top. They had the sluggers from Houston, especially in the later innings, when the better pitchers had sat down, and you had some relievers there that were throwing well, but not well enough. And again, you have to understand these people are in basically short roles. They want to get everyone in, but they won't ruin the rotation. So you didn't see Mr. Kenley Jensen in the top of the 10th because Roberts did not want to use him. It was that simple, because this is an exhibition game. It's not as exhibitionist as say the NFL, and that game has kind of fallen down. The Pro Bowl game, it's played on a different day now, and I'm not sure what channel it's on. It's not even for the NFL. It's no big deal, quite literally. And then you still have the NBA All-Star Game. The National Basketball Association is much more one. Hockey has one out there. Haven't covered it in a while. Maybe we gave the scores. I think it's East versus West, something of that nature. All these things have been changed around. The NBA changed their East versus West situation. I don't recall exactly what they've done. But baseball has literally went through many changes. The designated hitter rule. The American League has not had it. And there's been some experimentation in these minor league parks in the National League without the pitchers being able to pitch and having a designated hitter. That takes a lot out of the strategy. Baseball is a game of strategy and of numbers. And if you don't have the strategy, you really don't have baseball. It's a different kind of game. It's a team sport. But also you have individual players, but they have to act as a team. We saw that in the World Cup with France. You had very good players from basically 16 different countries and ethnic groups all playing together as one, and that's what you want to have. You can't have people freelancing around, and that's particularly also correct in the NFL, which the boycott's on. All about sports. We'll talk more about the economics of these, and this will also be on that channel, and that's why we put the Machado in, and the economics of that. The Dodgers simply want to fill up their ballpark, and that Western race is a very close race, and it'll be seesawing back and forth. So they want to get back to the championship, the National Championship Series, and so do the Cubs. The Cubs have good pitchers, basically speaking. They have some hitters. The defense is not bad, and they're middle relievers. But again, one of the big problems you have now is injuries. So when you start out the year and project Team A, Team B will get into the playoffs, difficult to say, because like the Dodgers have injuries out there, and there are only so many replacement players you can get. So then you have to have a good minor league system where they brought Taylor up and some others. The Dodgers have always historically had good minor league systems where they bring players in, they play in the minors usually for several years, at least a couple, 2-3 years, and they bring them to Dodger Stadium. And you're seeing more and more of these teams at least bring people from their minor league teams in for a few games to get them some experience. I was thinking here of the one pitcher that pitches both left and right handed. I can't remember which team he was with. He came in the minor league system, sort of up and down there. But you have a lot of good prospects out there. Aaron Judd, one of those prospects the Yankees have. Yankees have a lot of power hitting, but the question is, do they have the pitching to compete with Houston? There are a lot of teams out there that Mike Trout that can hit for power, but it boils down many times that when you're pitching, and a lot of serendipity has to be in there, no doubt about that. We'll end the broadcast here with the final about 2 minutes as a fair use thing from the broadcast. That would be the ESPN broadcast of the final endings and how the outs were made and how the runs were made in this game. And this is an interesting point also, that you now see these all-star games, usually don't, that are in extra innings, so there's more excitement there. But because of the long ball and not the small ball, took some of the excitement out, because basically what you had was home runs, strikeouts. Here means it's good pitching, and the home runs, well, you get lucky. These hitters can hit that 95-mile-an-hour fastball, very difficult to hit, and 100-mile-an-hour fastball. But some of the hard throwers, as usual, didn't get into the lineups, didn't need them. I'm thinking of Mr. Chapman there. He wasn't in there. They didn't need the relievers. But the American League got on well, basically because of their power. When Scherzer left, it got a little shaky for the National League. And some of the deficiencies there, but they fought back bravely. The American League just had one too many hitters. This has been the 2018 All-Star Game from National Stadium in Washington, D.C. This is Boston Red for WBRN Radio, the Boston Red Network, and all about sports. What we're doing is reusing some things here, and later we'll have Numbers Man will appear. That is our economics program from the macro standpoint. The open source report, we have been working on it. We'll have to kind of redo it because some things get a little dated. We'll be talking also about cybersecurity. We're not going to hear much about that since DJ Trump took over, but evidently the person that commands it, the general, I think he's a general, that does the Cyber Command and the NSA, all rolled, these intelligence agencies all rolled into one. We're working on a program, we have several. One on Vladimir Putin and his interview he gave to Fox News, and also this whole thing surrounding the Russian Federation. They now have a woman under arrest, and how she was able to infiltrate top echelons of the GOP. So that's kind of interesting. You're not having spying on the Democratic committee, but actually in these or around these various functionaries. So that will all be interesting how they function, and that is our surmise that is much more important than the so-called 10 or 11 or whatever it was intelligence officers that were indicted from the Russian Federation. And then this particular woman, she was trying to establish an NRA in the Russian Federation, which would not happen, but nonetheless she got in with the NRA here, which exposes the NRA as just a political front group, and she used it for her own front group. So that'll be an interesting episode when we get it together. And of course we'll have Friday Java as we normally do. A lot of new polling out there, very interesting. We also have an article from our friends at the University of Virginia. They'll have two out. They'll have one out later today, and we have one. So we have a lot of information we've been working on here, and I have been doing some traveling, so that's kind of put us behind, and some other things just all crossed to put us in a hole. So that was one of the reasons we're running a little late on everything, but hopefully we'll start to catch up. Good day.
as well as tonight. And happy times down there on the AL side, looking to make.
And it is 7-5.
All right, this is becoming as exciting as the home run derby last night. Just unbelievable what has transpired over the last 15 minutes. Scooter Gennett, pinch hit off the bench, ties up the ball game, untied by Alex Bregman and his teammate.
I mean, you can't tell me this isn't entertaining. I don't know what to tell you. Absolutely. Pitch to Segura's on the outside corner, but I'll finish my story on Bregman. He is known as just such a baseball head. Like, he'll take ground balls all day. He'll hit all day. The 0-1. And it's now an 8-6 game.
And Alex Bregman just lost the MVP. There was a look into the dugout when Joey Votto was jogging around the bases. It is now in the hands of George Springer, the MVP of this game, if the AL can hold on.
Joey Votto trying to hit a homer right there.
Yeah.
That
he was charged with an error.
As Yelich swings and fouls one back out of play. 10 home runs here tonight. Sean Duke. Here's a 1-2. Swing and a ball popped up. Shallow right field. Long run. Haniger coming on. Makes the catch. And that's the ball game. And the American League wins it. 8-6 the final. And that is 6 straight wins for the American League. On a night that turned into home run derby for the second straight night. And it's the American League prevailing.
A great resilience shown by each club to climb back in the ball game when it looked like it was over, and easily guys could be ready to head off into the rest of this break and enjoy. But nice little battle back and entertaining past couple of days here, partner.
Yeah, no doubt about it. National League showed a lot of grit, including a big hit by Scooter Gennett, who's standing by with Jim Kirkchin.